Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek. And of course, last time we met up with an old friend of ours, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our way back into that cave that I was speaking about earlier. I know I was saying previously that was something that we'd probably want to come back for later. I think I was mistaking that with a different cave, and so for that reason, let's maybe swap around a few party members, say, and get some people in who haven't had that much time to shine just yet. I'm thinking Gloria in particular seems like a good candidate. Maybe we take out Slinik, because certainly early on in Chapter 3 he had an extended period of time in which he was in the party, and then we gave him a little bit of an opportunity in Lifewood as well. Other than that, Meridor is probably someone who we haven't seen very much of yet. Solar still to a certain extent. And then aside from that, I'm hesitant to take out Elian because, of course, we've suddenly found that she can be very helpful to us with some of her new abilities. Yes, let's actually leave her in for a little while longer, and maybe you'll see why in just a second. Now, also, let's take a minute here to re-equip some of our characters because, as we may find, I suspect that some of them will not be fully geared up right now. So, I'm looking at people like Gloria, who has currently only one accessory on at the moment, and that simply will not do. She, has partially mastered the skills on her own chestplate. I suppose we can keep this on for the time being. The 50% resist Earth sounds like that could be useful right about now. However, might we be able to put on something else for that second accessory slot? And I think that we might have had some useful things. So if we take a second to look at item storage, I think that we will find, I'm thinking things like the Sapphire Bangle might be something that could be very useful for Gloria, especially because it does teach her a new skill. Other than that, her helmet, she has mastered everything on this. Do we have any other useful helmets that we might want to put on her? Possibly. This is a strong one, so could be worth keeping it on just for that reason. 1 defense, 4 magic defense is pretty high for a helmet, in addition to +1 spirit. Not bad. Other people with useful items that we might want. I'm thinking maybe we even... Oh, and I almost forgot that we did get a new Trilobite staff from, I believe it was the second Trilobite that we defeated, and this also has abilities for Gloria to learn. These could be rather useful. I'm curious as to how close is she to mastering everything on her Earth Staff. Extremely close. So I would think that if we could swap over to either the Trilobite Staff or the Air Staff soon, then that would be very helpful to us. She has actually already learned the plus 20% magic damage ability from her helmet, of all things, so maybe for that reason not as urgent to go the Air Staff route. Maybe we prioritize Trilobite Staff over that, at least for the time being, of course. Ultimately, we'll want to get both on her. However, there's also this turquoise that gives Solar the Spiritcraft ability, and we've not yet gotten the chance to look that over. So I think that's worth doing. And then sure, we can throw on a water pendant here, and maybe we do that with a few other people as well, wherever we happen to be housing those water pendants. Yeah, Zach has one. Let's throw that on Gloria as well. Maybe, she's close to finishing Null Earth once with the green beads. Maybe we try to get one more use out of that, and then we'll swap her over onto this. And then similarly, let's throw on maybe some water resistance elsewhere. Now, why am I doing this, you ask? Well, no reason at all. It's a mere coincidence, I assure you. I'm definitely not anticipating something that's about to happen. Anyways, moving on. So, let's head on over to said cave, which of course is not related to those changes that I was just looking to make. Let's also make a point of checking the skills on various characters to see if anything is now available to us that might not have previously been available. I'm thinking of, in particular, things like Resist Ether might be more useful than plus 10% HP, at least in some circumstances, certainly. Against some of those spirit enemies we were fighting previously? I would think so, but against general Lifewood enemies, HP is probably preferable. And so, sure, we could equip this right now to start working on the mastery, but let's hold off just a little while longer. And over here, yes, Elwyn has mastered the minus 10% physical damage reaction. She has plenty of other things, though, that we could and should be equipping, potentially even instead of that. Survivor, she does now have 10 RP, so she could begin to work on this, the one that allows her to survive hits with 1 HP. That could be very useful for someone who is as squishy as she is. Either that or evasion 50% is also pretty huge. I think maybe we go with evasion, and then that at least allows us to also have a little bit of additional damage mitigation with the minus 10% damage there. And look at that. Plus 20% physical damage. She's turned into an all-out attacker. Maybe, but probably not. Then Solar, we also did pick up the new weapon for you. We want to make sure we put that on. I don't recall as to whose inventory we put that in. Might even be worth going back just to double check. Magic Water, we did just throw on that water pendant, and it looks like Solar has already started to work on that, so that's good to see. And Resist Ether as well for Solar. On this occasion, Solar has basically nothing at all in terms of passive ability, so sure, let's throw that on because we don't have many alternatives. As for Gloria, we could deliberately unequip plus 20% HP in order to start working on plus 20% MP. I suppose that could be worthwhile. Other than that, just a little bit across the board. Not too much there. It's mostly the active skills that we're looking at on her. Let's double check as to whether we still have Solar's new claw in our inventory here, or if we actually want to double back real quick to pick that up. I think we do. Let me just take a quick head back over to that save crystal, except, hold on, not so fast. We got some leaf stingers. So, Solar took a couple of hits there, and Solar is another person who doesn't have a lot of HP and therefore is a little bit vulnerable here. We could go the Dolores Dirge route, as we've done several times in the recent past. I don't think it has quite enough damage to take out these leaf stingers in one round. However, if we were to, say, follow up with another spell of some variety on top of that, then that should be enough. Now, Solar, unfortunately, you are only able to take out one enemy at a time with Solar Flare, so that means we would not be able to, say, take out all the leaf stingers in one turn or damage all the leaf stingers in one turn, as Charlotte was doing. We could use a healing ability, which you debatably need right now on yourself. Spiritcraft is the new ability that we just learned, or just picked up, with that new item that we put on Solar. It increases a single target's spirit. So this is actually, it may sound like that's not a huge deal. However, this is one of the most, I hesitate to say the word broken, but maybe spammable skills in the game, in that there are many people who have skills that scale significantly based on how much spirit they have. I'm thinking of people like Elwyn, who's Dolores Dirge damage, and many other of her songs are based on how much spirit she has. And Vern as well can deal loads of damage if you can load up on the spirit. It also raises people's MP. So if you're running out of MP, you can actually circumvent having to use an item by putting on Spiritcraft instead. So it's a surprisingly versatile skill for what at first glance might seem like just a simple spirit boost. So, might that actually be a reason to boost Elwyn's spirit here, because that might be the difference between being able to take out those leaf stingers in one turn and not? I think that is actually the way to go. So let's see, +7, that is a ton. So we see that it does 182 damage per turn now. And unfortunately, that looks like that's going to fall just shy of the amount that we needed in order to take down at least one of the leaf stingers here. Not going to happen. So, we could, of course, use Mardek as the healer. Hey, remember that when Mardek was our primary healer? Anyways, nowadays, I suppose he's a bit more of a physical attacker. So Gloria, we were just saying, we do want to try to find a way to get her one more Razor Leaf so that she can swap over to her other staff. However, much of the enemies in Lifewood are, of course, resistant to Earth, and therefore it's going to be hard to get in one of those spells without feeling like we're being counterproductive. So, I suppose the roaming axolotl is actually weak to Earth, and we have already established that we are not expecting those leaf stingers to get taken out in one hit from the Dolores Sturge, so maybe we focus on the axolotl specifically here. It's not enough to take it out, so we're going to have a lot of enemies on low HP, but not actually down, which is unfortunate, especially when they take out Solar. So, we can continue Dolores Sturge, and now that will be enough to get absolutely everyone, in fact. So there's that. However, you know, if we had done that slightly earlier, had just enough damage to take these guys out, then, of course, Solar would not have fallen there. So, unfortunate, and I suppose we could have removed Taint to get rid of the poison as well, or could have had someone else remove the poison in addition to the heal with Mardek that we've done. But for the most part, I think it's largely just that Solar has 410 HP, so if Solar gets hit by several attacks, then there's not much you can do about that. So, that means that for Mardek, I mean, we don't have much that we really need to do with you per se. These guys are gonna go down on their next turn. However, I suppose this is also an opportunity for Gloria here to master some of her other skills, namely Null Earth Once is now done. So that allows her to swap off another one of her pieces of equipment. Okay. So there we have that. Still a productive battle in that sense. So that means no more need for the green beads. That was where Null Earth Once was coming from. So if we throw on the water pendant, and then, oh, we took off her helmet because we were saying, well, we might have a better one, and then didn't actually put on one in its place. So we should probably do that, and maybe it is just her own helmet, because like we were saying before, it is quite powerful. And then let's go back. So let's also put on the new staff for Gloria. Now that she no longer needs to master Razor Leaf, we can put on either the Air Staff or the Trilobite Staff. Let's go Trilobite. I believe it is probably a higher attack item, technically speaking. Not that that's terribly relevant for her, but yes. 24 on the Air Staff versus 30 on the Trilobite Staff. That at least is sort of an indirect indication that one would expect for this to be a quote-unquote better item, whereas the Air Staff might be a quote-unquote worse item, although, obviously, for the most part, we're just trying to master these skills here so that, regardless of what staff Gloria uses, she's in good shape. Now that we've done that, we're in a better place there for her skills. Let's make sure that we get the new weapon for Solar, because that is, of course, something that we would like to see. And I don't remember as for where exactly we put that, but we should have picked it up earlier. We do, of course, have it somewhere. The question is, who swiped it? Charla? I might have known. Okay, so, Solar, let's just verify that you are done with your Silver Claw in terms of skills. You certainly are. And so the Silver Claw had 25 base damage, whereas the Viper Claw, 28. So it's not a huge damage boost, but it is a damage boost. And as we saw previously, lots and lots of poison. So that is the primary thing, in addition to being Earth Elemental. So, we throw on some of those things here. Poison. Okay. Then, let's head on out. And like I said, over to the cave. Now, we should be ready to do that. And maybe we'll find that, well, I suppose we did pick up, at least in Solar's case, an Earth Elemental item. Ooh, Rogue Berry. So we do have a recipe for taking these guys out. Assuming that Elwian does not fall asleep, which she did, and stayed asleep. So that's a bit of an issue, because her using Dolores Sturge is extremely effective against these guys, so that would have been our typical answer. So the problem with Solar now is after putting on that new claw, that means we're going to be dealing earth damage with physical attacks, so don't want to use those against the Rogue Fairy. We could, of course, use a Solar Flare instead, which is probably the route we will go here. Does still deal some damage. Remember, the Rogue Fairy does start with a shield, a magic shield, so for that reason it's not going to deal quite as much damage as it normally would, and it's not enough to take it out in one turn. However, Gloria has woken up, and she can use her new Whirlpool ability, which is basically a water version of Razor Leaf. So it's her primary water offensive spell, much like Bubble was for Emla back in Chapter 2. However, unlike Razor Leaf, which lowers the target's vitality, this lowers the target's spirit, which could be somewhat useful in some cases if we're going up against an enemy that we feel is going to use a lot of magical abilities. That could make them so that they are not dealing as much damage with those. But let's do it here. Rogue Fairy does have its fair share of water resistance. I believe it was 75%, so we see not a ton of damage coming from Gloria there. As for Mardek, we could deliberately shield. Not sure that we need to heal much. I think for the most part, probably best to just try to attack, and I believe the fairies are fairly elusive. Yes, 70% evasion, so unlikely for this to hit, but worth a shot at the very least, I suppose. Okay, and now, well, we really would have liked for Elwian to have woken up there, and I suppose there are a few ways that we could get a little bit creative and make sure that she does do just that. But for the moment, I think we'll just go the more traditional route. Mass Splash hits everyone with some water damage, and so that, in theory, dealt less damage because Gloria was able to use a Whirlpool and reduce the fairy's spirit. So if we do so again, we should find that that continues to be the case. It does happen. At least starting off with 25 spirit, down to 23 now, so a long ways to go before that damage is looking like it's nowhere near where it was starting. And of course, the fairy does have haste as well, so plenty of time to do these things as well. Unfortunately, Elwian, despite getting hit here, is not waking up. And she is, like I was saying before, definitely the person that, above all else, we really want to be taking a turn here. Solar is dealing a fair amount of damage, and actually what we could do is deliberately have Solar boost their own spirit so that they deal more damage with those attacks and might be able to take the fairy out in one hit instead of dealing a little bit of damage each turn. That, of course, would have relied on Solar staying alive. So, with that in mind, do we feel confident that Gloria can take out the Rogue Fairy using Whirlpools, perhaps with some combination of Mardek landing 1 in every 3 out of 10 hits? It's not going to be terribly effective, because I do believe the fairy is healing more with its regen than Gloria is dealing damage with her Whirlpool. Also, the fairy is taking 2 turns for every 1 turn that Gloria takes, because the fairy has haste. So basically, Mardek, you gotta hit here. And you did. So things get tricky from here on out. We now probably need to take more aggressive action to get Elwian in the game, especially because everyone is asleep right now. So, you know, I'll admit, at first, I saw the fairy and I thought, oh, we've dealt with plenty of these guys before. This won't be an issue. This is a pretty huge issue right now. Everyone is asleep. Of all the people to wake up, Elwian, I'm most happy to see that it is you. So you will deal some damage here. You do need to stay up, which is actually saying a surprising amount, because otherwise this guy will manage to... Oh, okay, cool. Will manage to wipe the entire party, and fortunately, again, 1 person woke up, and it was Elwian. This Dolores Dirge will deal enough damage this time. That, I don't think you need me to tell you, but that was extremely close. Okay, well, Mardek did master Quarry's Spirit. Got a few, I believe those were magic defensive reactions as well. Was that light for Mardek? Okay, so he's done with that. I'm assuming it wasn't Elwian, but one other person I thought I saw also mastered something. Maybe not. Or some other skill. Okay, so let's take a good hard look for a second and maybe heal everyone extremely aggressively. Because we're gonna be in trouble if that happens again. Now, a lot of things went wrong, of course. The fairy was able to basically put everyone to sleep, and we didn't have a way to counter that because, well, we should have been more aggressive with bringing Elian back to her waking state. As you saw, as soon as she was awake, we were able to deal damage much more quickly. So this time round, these guys, the Lower Surge is not going to be nearly as effective, so we probably could use Runic Rhapsody instead. And this one decreases magical damage that characters take, so this is not terribly effective for us this time around either. However, if we're just looking to master it, then that is, I suppose, perhaps reason enough. Now, so Solar has, of course, the Earth Elemental physical attacks now, which does mean that those are actually particularly effective against the Axolotl here, and not so effective against the Mantid. So that might be worthwhile doing here. Or alternatively, we could say heal everyone in the party, because at least Gloria has now taken a few hits, and Solar and Mardek, I don't think we healed you up to maximum HP in between fights. I was perhaps getting a little bit clever, which, after what happened in the last fight, probably is not a good idea. So let's be a little bit safer here. And then Whirlpool on the purple Mantid should be a good idea, because it is fire elemental, so it is very weak. Water. And that is in fact the case, so that's good to see. Lowered Spirit on the Mantid, probably not terribly relevant. There we see that the Axolotl deals very little damage, in part because we put on so much water resistance on several people. Gloria has 100%. Solar has 50, but I believe has a magic defensive reaction for another 50, so again, that's full mitigation there. Elian, 70% resistance, and I don't think has any magic defensive reaction, so it's just 70%, but that's still a lot. And Mardek might have been taking full damage from that. But all in all, quite good. And Mardek, can you take out an Axolotl in one hit? I'm pretty confident you could take out the Mantid here, but I think the Axolotl will actually be a little bit tougher because we know Gloria can deal a lot of damage to the Mantid in one turn. Not as confident about the Axolotl. So, he cannot, and do we feel as if this warrants switching over to anything else? No, we can probably keep this on for the time being. That means that Mantid will not attack this turn, too busy enraging, and that's actually probably a good thing, because that means that now Gloria can definitely take it out before it has a chance to go again. Solar can take out the Axolotl. Gloria, if you just use a Whirlpool here. Not bad. Much better than the previous fight, but I suppose that's not saying much. And we actually got a Bone Axe. We fought several of those Axolotls already. I was wondering when we might finally get one of these. It is an axe, which of course we could ultimately end up using for Slinick, what with him being our axe character. It is a primitive but effective axe, made from the thigh bone of a large beast and the pelvis type thing of some probably different beast. Maybe. So 40 base attack. I'd have to double check what his other weapons have, but that does look pretty high. I'm feeling like that would probably be his highest base damage weapon. It also gives Perforate, a new active skill, and Quarry Beast, a new offensive reaction. Both sound like things we definitely want to give Slinick the chance to learn. And then the 40 damage and 4% critical chance. I'm assuming that's roughly the same as what his usual axes would have. So that is a very good pickup. I don't remember what the drop chance is from those Axolotls, but based on how many of them we fought and how few of those axes we ended up getting, I suspect it's probably pretty low. And what is this place? The Serpent's Lair is the answer. So let's heal, because this looks new, unfamiliar, and perhaps dangerous. And, of course, Lifewood was very Earth-themed. However, Serpent, I'm not sure what that means in terms of elements. There is a wall here blocking several chests, so it'd be great to get past that. And interestingly, there's a switch there, and a fight, no less. Those are... Excuse me? Does that say Rat-Bat? Rats with wings? Oh, no. Not today. So, they have 200 to 300 HP. They're quick, of course, after having gone first. That's usually the case with any that type of enemies. They're somewhat resistant to dark, but actually not entirely resistant. They're actually more resistant to earth, and air, light, and fire are the most effective things to do against them. Now, Dolores Dirge, I believe, does not actually take into account enemies' resistances to dark, so that shouldn't matter there. However, that should mean that Solar is in good shape for a Solar Flare, not so good shape when it comes to using physical attacks, because those are now Earth Elemental. We could, however, deliberately try to Spirit Craft on Elwian, plus 8 Spirit, which I believe is the highest that Solar can do with the Spirit Craft ability. It is random, there is a range in which it can fall, but 8, I believe, is the maximum within that range. So, Gloria, remind me, water, they have no resistance one way or the other, so I suppose, why not? Use Whirlpool here. Chance to continue to get closer to mastering that new skill. And now with Dolores Dirge, on top of the damage that we just dealt, I believe that will probably be enough. We can also heal Elwian here. Probably be useful after she took a hit or two. She's also poisoned, so let's remember to remove that after this fight. We've got a Batwing, sure. So let's remove the poison. And we see that there's a green switch here. However, notice that it appears to already be flipped. So, okay, we can unflip it, and now it does appear to create a path down here with some sort of floating crystals. Okay, if we look at the map, can we tell if there's a way through there? It does look like maybe if we go down this route, we could make it through. Let's try that out. And then there might also be a route up and to the left. Maybe we try that first, using the classic RPG methodology of, if it looks like it's the wrong way, go there first to pick up your loot. Okay. More axolotls, this time a slightly different version, and tweeds, whatever those are. They look like water versions of the eye stalks that we originally saw in the Dark Temple, so they have quite high magic defense and a lot of water resistance. However, they are weak to earth, so that might mean that something like a Solar physical attack could be quite useful here. And Dolores Dirge, Runic Rhapsody, take your pick. Maybe Runic Rhapsody, because don't know what these guys are going to use against us, so we'll load up on our magical defense here. And these guys, we just said, were weak to earth attacks. So which one has lower HP? This one does. I feel fairly confident, though, that Solar is going to be able to take this guy out. Oh, except it would have been just barely enough to take out the other one, not the one with the higher HP, so now I look silly. Alright, one of them has silenced Mardek, which is a little bit concerning, because that, of course, means that he can't use any of his skills, only his usual attacks, so that means no healing. However, Gloria, if we go back to the Razor Leaf here, Earth should be effective against water enemies. Here are the axolotls taking their turn, and no, don't both target Solar. Don't do that. So here we see, even if only one of them had attacked Solar, we would not have been able to heal because Mardek is silenced right now. So we could use Liquid Sound to unsilence Mardek. In fact, we probably will need to do that rather soon, because I don't believe that we have any other skills that can remove that status. But I'm kind of fearful that were we to do that, then one of these enemies might turn around and re-silence us. So let's instead just focus on taking them out first. And now that we no longer have the damage from Solar, that means it's going to be a little bit harder for us to take these guys out. Maybe we do swap to Dolores Dirge for that reason. Razor Leaf, though, should be effective. Might be able to take out the one with the lower HP here, or perhaps even both. There we go. Dolores Dirge with the finishing blow there. Okay. So, in fact, if we're this close to the save crystal, let's just, like, give ourselves a quick heal, and that'll remove the silence, so that's helpful. As for what is up here, this might loop around and lead us to the chest. It looks like that is the case, so what is... Oh, in that chest there? Well, battle first. Okay, the same setup we saw previously. Have we learned anything about what we ought to do or not to do in this circumstance? And not necessarily sure that's the case, short of maybe even using a spirit song. to boost magical damage, I'm thinking someone like Gloria could find that very useful. Let's give that a shot. Solar, I think you do still use your physical attacks, and we saw that we should probably target a Tweed with roughly 371 HP or lower, because he dealt 372 the previous fight. So, well, if we're feeling risky, I missed the reaction, and yet you still dealt enough damage to take that guy out, so okay. I was gonna say there's a chance that we might have just gotten the lower range of our damage this time round, and therefore might not have been able to take out that guy, but maybe we got the lower end of the range in the previous fight, after all. Especially since I'm pretty sure I got the reaction right the first fight, but didn't this time. Razor Leaf, though, for Gloria, that is definitely still the name of the game, and with Elian supporting you this time, the damage should be higher. Okay, they are using Bubble Breath this time, the Axolotls, which is preferable, because Solar can mitigate all the damage from that, so now, with Mardek not silenced, we can heal Solar entirely. So that's good to see. And Elian does get a little bit of experience every turn, because she's using her skill, and therefore that was enough for her to level up, which does mean that all of these skills are now a little bit more effective. And I don't think we're gonna need the extra magic ability from Spirit Song right now, because look at how low everyone's HP is, so maybe we throw on a quick Runic Rhapsody, get close to mastering that. Solar, we have a preference in terms of who you attack. I think it is the Tweed, because it is more resistant to magic than the Axolotls are. So then we can do this with Gloria. Take these guys out. And Liquid Sound is seemingly going to be very useful here, based on how there's definitely at least the chance that our enemies could inflict that status on us. This chest is just dramatically placed enough that I feel like there's a non-zero chance that this might actually be an enemy. It is not. Ooh, okay, good. Big juice, so that is helpful. And then here we find more chests locked behind a wall. So it is a green switch, and I wonder what color switch this is here. It's blue. Okay, so if we play some mind games here, I think what we do is we actually want to have the green switch flipped in order to be able to get through these doors, because we need the green switch unflipped to cross. However, we do not need it to go through that wall there. So a little bit of a case of which one do you want to do first. So maybe because we have it unflipped at the moment and we can cross that pathway, might be best to go down there first, and then when we end up going back through here on some later date or on our way out of this cave, then we'll make sure to pick up the loot. So, cavefish in axolotls. Those cavefish are new, and they have a little bit of defense, no magic defense, very high water resistance, so definitely not something we want to try against them, but otherwise, we have several options in terms of how we might damage them. So, how does that affect what we choose to do here? They have high 300, low 400 in terms of HP. That means Dolores Sturge definitely will not be strong enough to take them out in one turn. For that reason, I think we probably do opt to use Spirit Song here to boost Gloria, first and foremost. And do we try for the Axolotls with Solar? I think we do, because this one has the most HP. Does mean that everyone will get a chance to attack us, though. Minus 10 agility on Gloria. That is alarming. She was probably already going to be second to last or last anyway, so not a huge deal, but if that were, say, against Elian, then she'd go from first to last in that case, in all likelihood. So, as for Mardek, we could heal Gloria, but I don't necessarily think she is desperate, so to speak. Does anyone have light, weakness, or resistance? The cavefish do have weakness to it. So I'm thinking we deliberately attack the cavefish with the most HP here, because we can take it out with Mardek, so that's useful. And if we Razor Leaf with Gloria, she is getting boosted by Elwian right now, so might this be enough to take somebody out? Maybe the fish? Fish and an axolotl. Wait, axolotls I think technically are fish? No, they're reptilians? Is that true? In real life? Axolotls are a real thing, in case anyone is wondering. They do exist. But I thought they were fish. Maybe not. I guess they're reptilians. I don't know. Anyways, let's take it out with Solar. That much I do know we can do. and another bone axe. So, of course, took us a while to get our first one, but then we get 2 in quick succession. So I think that what we're going to want to do is... maybe we flip the green switch and head on back to pick up the loot in those chests there, because otherwise, who knows when we'll be next back over here. Might be that we can double back immediately and pick up that stuff, but if we can't, like get teleported at the end of whatever we end up doing here, then it could be a while. We might just outright forget to pick up this loot, so I feel like it's probably more of a good idea for us to make sure that we do it right now. Again, do we Spirit Song deliberately in order to boost the damage of, say, a Razor Leaf? That's probably not a bad idea. And then Solar, why don't you target the enemy with the most HP, increase the chances of Gloria being able to take everyone out right now. And Solar did also manage to inflict poison. Okay, only 1 of the axolotls down. But it is enough for Gloria to level up. And Mardek, I'm assuming you can probably take out an axolotl here. You can? Elian, this time around, you probably could take out this last axolotl with Dolores Dirge, but let's, again, use Runic Rhapsody because this should be pretty easy from here on out, so it's an opportunity to at least get one more use on that. Because if it's up to me, I'm going to be using Dolores Dirge and Spirit Song quite often. Okay, maybe these axolotls are more likely to drop the bone axes, because that is now 2 in a row. And let's heal up here. And I think that what we're going to do here is this is probably a good place for us to wrap up, because it looks like there's a lot of ground for us to cover in this cave, so it might be a while until we are done with it. So, what exactly is on the other side of this thing? I mean, it is supposedly the Serpent's Lair, right? So, maybe it's the Loch Ness Monster?